Hey guys, it's your one and only Waka Doctor here again. And today I am bringing you a brand new episode on your migration tips. Today we're going to discuss how to migrate to Canada easily. Now, this video comes as a result of the numerous DMs and questions I've been getting over the last few weeks about Canada. And I usually would tell people that, look, I give tips only based on alternatives to the UK, US, and Canada because everyone wants to go to these countries. But there have been a few questions about Canada. Please help us with Canada. So I'm going to give you tips that I know and I've found out, and I hope it helps you to move to Canada and actualize your dream. Okay, so good news. All right, from 2020 to 2023, Canada will welcome more than 1 million immigrants into Canada. That's good news, isn't it? And you can be one of them. Now, there are many pathways to migrate into Canada, and I'm going to talk about a few unconventional ones before I tell you the main one that seems to be the easiest way to get into Canada. Okay, there are various methods, various ways. So get your pen, listen attentively, and follow me. Okay. Now, the first one I'm going to talk about is migration using the family sponsorship. Okay, it's a category of migration available to family members of Canadian citizens and permanent residents. Okay, so family members eligible to sponsor will include the spouse or common partner, a dependent child, adopted or biological, and parents or grandparents. Okay, and yeah, that's the first one. The second one is humanitarian and refugee immigration, which means that Canada has a huge reputation as a leader of accepting new refugees into their country based on humanitarian reasons or compassionate reasons. Now, a large portion of Canada's annual immigration is targeted towards admitting refugees. So if you're one of those that thinks that you can go as a refugee, this is open for you. Okay. Another group is the business migration. It's also called startup visas. So it's for those that have existing businesses or startups and want to migrate to Canada to provide employment because you're providing a service in Canada. So they're going to give you visa for startups. Okay. Now, applicants for this type of visa would have to have a qualifying business. You will get a letter of support from a designated organization. That's a business group that has been approved to invest or support such startups. Okay. Now, you must meet the language requirements as well. You must bring enough money with you to settle. I'll post a list of funds that you need per family member. I'll post it in the description box. You search for a designated organization. Convince that organization that your business is worth sponsoring. Get a letter of support from them and add this to your immigration application. Okay. Now, if you want to know how you can search for designated organizations, just go to you put in your browser www.canada.ca/en/refugees-citizenship. Put a stroke to it, services, another stroke, immigrate-canada-start-visa-designated/organizations.html. Again, that's a long website. I'm going to put it in my description box again just for you to copy. Okay. Now, other pathways include, if you're a caregiver, you can go to Canada. If you have provisional nomination, which is a lot that people do those ones, you can also go. Now, these categories that I've explained are not your regular pathways, okay? But I thought to mention them just in case any one of you qualifies. All right. Now, the easiest way to get into Canada is, well, aside schooling will be the last thing I'll talk about, but aside schooling, the easiest way to get into Canada is express entry. All right. Now, express entry means as a skilled worker. So you have to be a skilled worker to get into this. If you're a skilled worker, that is, you have a relevant work experience, you can apply to migrate to Canada. All right. Now, workers are taken under 3 programs. 3. 1, 2, 3. Now, you have the Federal Skilled Workers Program, you have the Canadian Express class, Experience class, and you have the Federal Skilled Trades Program. The first one I mentioned is Workers Program. This is Trades Program. Now, the major difference between, so say the Federal Skilled Workers Program is looking for people who have undue skilled jobs, like accountants, doctors, bankers, lawyers, architects, HR managers, compliance officers, customer representative officers, things like that. All right, that's the Federal Skilled Workers Program. The Federal Skilled Trades Program is for people involved in trade, so carpenters, electricians, plumbers. That's for you. Okay. The Canadian Experience class is an opportunity for those who have worked in Canada before. So I won't talk about that here now. Now, if you want to apply for the Federal Skill Program, remember, like doctors, accountants, lawyers that I mentioned above, okay? You need at least 1 year of continuous work. Of course, the more the experience, the better. In a job consistent with the job field that you're applying for in Canada. It must also have been within the last 10 years of your application. Now, you need English proficiency as well, which means that you need to take the IELTS exam, or any other English exam that shows your proficiency, which can be converted into the Canadian language benchmark. Okay. In Canadian immigration, your total band score does not matter. All right. What matters is the score per section. Okay. Now, you also need to show education credentials, so your secondary school certification, tertiary, and otherwise. Okay. Minimum requirement is secondary school qualification. Okay. Now, you need to also you need to also show proof of funds. All right. So proof of funds or proof of an employment. If you already have a job before applying for the visa, you need to show that you have proof of funds. So they usually require $13,000 Canadian dollars now per family member. Now, this figure increases by $3,000 per family member. All right. Now, like I said, it is only if you have a job. So it's not compulsory that you already have a job offer before you can apply for it. If you don't have a job offer, you just need to show proof of funds. Okay. Of course, you need your international passport. So if you don't have your passport, you should get it. You need other supporting documents like a proof of relationship to a person living in Canada. If you have it, you need to add it. If you don't, no biggie. Now, what are the requirements for application in the Federal Skilled Trades Program? Now, the difference in the requirements from the one I mentioned above for the Workers Program is that you don't need to have gone to school. So if you've not gone to school, this is the one you need to do. Although schooling can give you an advantage, but it's not compulsory you have attended school. As for experience, you must have worked at least 2 years in the last 5 years in the trade you have selected. Okay? Now, you need to have a job offer from Canada or show that at least you've worked in Canada before. Okay? Now, once you have all the above settled, you can just fill and submit the online profile form to the express entry pool. If you've reached the pass mark, which is 67 over 100, you will be considered amongst other qualified candidates, sent an invitation letter to apply, then your visa application will now begin, and so will your pathway to permanent residency. You get it? In Canada. I hope you're getting my point so far. All right. Now, how much money do you need to move to Canada? Now, the necessary amount of funds you need to migrate differs. Okay, some immigration programs do not require anything at all more than the processing fees. Okay, others require you to have substantial amounts in your account to go to Canada. We'll break it down. Don't worry, I got you. Now, there's also what is called an economic migration. And most economic categories of migration require proof that you're able to financially support yourself during your resettlement to Canada. Now, some of them don't even ask. Now, the categories of economic migration that do not request you to show proof of funds usually require that an applicant have Canadian work experience or a Canadian job offer. The rationale being that these candidates do not require funds for resettlement in Canada, given the fact that they already have integrated themselves already into the Canadian workforce. So yes, the belief is that if you've integrated yourself into the Canadian workforce before, you really don't need proof of funds. Now, for the business migration that I mentioned, it requires significant investment in Canada. So you need huge amount of investment. It requires you to have invested in Canadian economy, invested in a Canadian company, or require an applicant to make an interest-free loan to the federal or provincial government. Okay. Now, for family sponsorship that I mentioned, in most cases, you do not need to provide financial information to sponsor a spouse or a dependent child. If you're sponsoring a parent or a grandparent, there is financial requirement. Okay. Now, the refugee one that I mentioned, the humanitarian and refugee sponsorship, if you're applying under this, no financial requirements exist. Okay. The only time the financial information is required under this category is privately sponsored applicants. Okay. All right, are you listening? Now, let me tell you about the funds needed to migrate to Canada without a job offer. Okay. Now, if you're going with one family member, you need 12,960 Canadian dollars. If you're traveling with two family members, you need 16,135 Canadian dollars. Three family members, 19,836 Canadian dollars. Four is 24,083 Canadian dollars. If you're going with five, it's 27,315 Canadian dollars. If it is six, it's 30,806 Canadian dollars. Remember, it is Canadian dollars, not US dollars. Okay? And for each family member that you're adding, just be adding 3,400. That's it. Okay. Now, I think I would like to talk about those who would want to go for schooling. Okay, so let's talk about that a bit. Now, I will write in my description box, I would put a list, okay, for international awards and scholarships for masters, undergraduate, and PhD. I'll put them in the description box for you to follow. Okay. Now, if you want to apply through school, here are the basic steps you need to follow during application process. Okay. First, you choose a program. All right. Now, your program choice is one of the most important factors. You choose a program. Apply to the school. Okay. Now, after deciding on the program, apply to the school, submit an application. You need to have a letter of acceptance from a Canadian designated learning institution before you can now apply for a study permit. Okay? So when you have that, you apply for a study permit. With your acceptance letter in your hand, you'll be ready to apply for a study permit. And the shortest processing time is usually about 2 weeks, and some people wait up until 4 months. Okay? Now, what documents do you need? International Student Document Checklist. Now, for the application process to go through, certain documents are needed, and that's what I'm going to give to you. Acceptance letter. That's a letter sent by the school to confirm your acceptance into the program of study. Number 2 is your proof of financial support, proof that you have money to support yourself and any family members coming with you. And you must show that you can cover your tuition fees as well as your cost of living, that's feeding and accommodation, in your first year in Canada. Okay. You also need identity documents, your passport, marriage certificate, birth certificate, any certificate, just to identify yourself. Now, what is the application process for a Canadian study permit? Now, there are 4 stages to obtaining a study permit. Now, the first one is that they check your eligibility. To ensure that you meet the eligibility requirements, you need the following things. Again, an acceptance letter, supporting documents, depending on your country of residence, and a proof of financial support. Okay. Number 2, prepare your application. Now, if you meet all the eligibility requirements that I've talked about, then you start preparing. Okay, make sure you have gathered all the documents required. If you don't show that you meet the requirements, the immigration people will reject your application. Okay. Now, it's a good idea to often have an immigration representative just to go through your application and help you. But I mean, it doesn't mean that you cannot do it yourself. You can, of course. Now, you submit that application. Now, you have 2 options when you're submitting. You can either submit an electronic application using the IRCC website. It's the Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, where you scan your documents and submit, or you submit paper-based application, and that is usually through the visa application center assigned to your country. Now, if your study permit is approved, voila, you go to Canada. All right, so you do not often, you don't receive your Canadian study permit until you get to the point of entry in Canada. Okay. Now, if it's approved, the Canadian government will, issue you a point of entry, introduction letter, and you show this letter to the immigration official when you arrive in Canada, and they stamp it. Okay. Now, what is the Canada IELTS requirement band for 2020 and 2020 is gone, and 2021 I meant. So 2021, I don't know what it will be in 2022, but at least for this year. Okay, to study in Canada, apart from gaining Canadian experience and academic excellence, you need to be proficient and efficient in English language. So IELTS is the most common one. Okay, so in Canada, IELTS is necessary. You need that proof of English language. For undergraduate courses, a minimum score of 5.5 for the 4 sections. So 5.5, 5.5, 5.5. Okay, with an aggregate score of 6 is required. For postgraduate courses, you need a minimum of 6, and an aggregate score of 6.5 is required. Okay. Next question, can I work while I study in Canada? Of course, you can work 20 hours per week, okay, during the school terms, all right? Now, during break time, like summer vacation, international students are allowed to work full-time, okay? Now, most students don't need a work permit to work while they study because their job, the permit allows you anyway, okay? Can I bring my family while I study? Can you bring your family with you while you study? You want to carry your family? No problem, okay? Now, for students who are married and have kids and wish to bring, now Canadian visa officers will consider your study permit applications, which include accompanying family members, of course. Now, you should note that because you've added your family members, it will influence the judgment of the visa officer, okay? So if you're approved as a family, your spouse will be able to work full-time in Canada, and any accompanying child of yours will be able to apply for free. So it's possible, all right? Now, let's talk about fees and funding for academics. Now, if you're pursuing studies in a Canadian university or college, the tuition may be as high as 15,000 Canadian dollars in your first year. Okay. Now, like I've been saying, you need to show proof of funds in your account and for accommodation and living expense. This means that you must be able to show at least 15 to 20,000 Canadian dollars in your account. Now, how do you show proof of sufficient funds? You can either evidence of a bank account in Canada that's in your name, or proof of education or student loan from a financial institution, or a bank draft, or a bank account statements in the last 6 months, or a letter of sponsorship, from your sponsor with the funds, or an evidence of payment that you've paid your tuition fees in Canada and accommodation as well, or an evidence of funding paid from within Canada if you're on a scholarship. All right. Now, how much do you have to prepare as an international student? Remember that tuition varies from institution to institution, so be sure that you have enough money. Okay. Now, I'm going to tell you how much you require. If the application is for one, you need your tuition plus 5 to 10,000 Canadian dollars in your account if you're applying to other places outside Quebec. But if it's Quebec, you need your tuition plus $10,000. Now, if you're adding a family member that is 18 years of age or older, that means that you need to add $4,000 if it's outside Quebec. If it's inside Quebec, you need to add $5,000. Okay. Now, post-study. Let's talk about post-study. Now, as an international student in Canada, completing your studies does not mean you have reached the end of your time in Canada. Okay. In fact, studying in Canada is considered to be one of the fast-track options you have to gaining permanent residence. Okay. Now, many students use their studies as a stepping stone for temporary work and permanent residency. So, let's take a closer look at one of the most popular ways to do this. It's usually through the PGWPP, and that is the Post-Graduation Work Permit Program. Okay. Now, students after completing their graduation and taking up jobs, depending on your capability as well, all you need is that permit that allows you to gain Canadian experience. Okay. Now, the permit is offered for 3 years, and also you're allowed to work without breaks, so you work continuously. The break is, up to you. You can take breaks when you like. Now, it's very, very easy, extremely easy. All right. My advice is stay in Canada after you graduate. If you decide to stay in Canada after you graduate, there are a number of programs you can apply for. Stay in Canada if you graduate, so you don't need to leave. Okay. Now, the post-graduation work permit allows you to gain valuable Canadian experience, like I said. Let me give you an example. So if you graduate from a 4-year program, you are eligible most likely for a 3-year study, for a 3-year post-graduation work permit, if you meet the criteria, of course. And if you graduate from, let's say, an 8-month certificate program, you'll be eligible for another 8 months. You get it? Okay. So, provincial nominee programs, some provinces offer immigration options for graduates, okay, who have completed their qualification in that particular province, okay, and would like to stay on and work in Canada and, continue their lives. So, some of this, you can get one for Manitoba, New Brunswick, British Columbia, Ontario, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, Newfoundland and Labrador. The list goes on. Okay. So, if you ever think of going to Canada, I think I've given you a summary. It's not detailed, but I've cramped up all the points. So just listen and follow, and I'm sure that you will have guidelines that you can use. So if you want to migrate to Canada, these are tips you can always employ. And so, 2021, actualize your dreams. It's been nice talking to you. I'll see you later.